does it say something to a Muslim and ask an evaluation of these concepts?
You see, I don't know what you mean by solidarity and egotism. Would you please explain it further? Unless I understand the question.
Okay. If we should...
you have created two platforms, yes. One of ego and other of solidarity.
Yes, not ego. So, then it's too easy to make a choice. No, it means if you put a look at the European political process,
yes.
Then it will be a kind of signal to tell that there is a movement for solidarity. The socialistic movement which said we can do nothing by our own, we can only do something when we stand together. And they call that kind of solidarity. And the other...
individualism.
Yes, right. That's right. Has this two movements, moral...
yes.
Something...
Now I have got you.
All right.
Yes. You see, there has always been a historic trend of getting bigger in every field of human interest, where smaller units like drops appear, and some drops join hands together and make a small pool, and then lakes, and then rivers flow and things. Exactly like this, human society is developing, and human state is also developing. But at the same time, there are counter movements of separation. Unless you understand the reasons why larger units are created out of smaller, what are the forces responsible, and why the process is reversed, you can't find the answer to this. And there is always a moral involved. Now, I can make you understand things better in application to what is happening in USSR. USSR attempted a totalitarian state that is based on scientific socialism, where society would become all-powerful and where individual would be left or reduced to just a drop, not outside ocean, but in ocean, where it has no single separate identity. This was the ultimate goal of scientific socialism, which would end up in a stateless society. Now, my concept is, my belief is, I should say, and very well-rooted belief is, that all our attempts, whether they are political or social or economic, are deeply related to human psyche. Human psyche. Human nature. Wherever a philosophy has deviated from the equilibrium of God's creation, that is human nature, their imbalances are created. And no man-made imbalances can stay for long. They will always have a reversal. Sometimes tumultuous reversal, like bloody revolutions. Sometimes a steady reversal. But these are injustices committed against human nature, and they are bound to kick back. And this issue itself is the principle of morality. But I don't want to go into philosophy over much. I'll return to the hard facts. Now, individual becomes a society only because it wants greater protection, and it would give piecemeal its own right to do whatever he pleases for the sake of some values to protect its own individual identity. That is the philosophy of evolution of society. So if in that process the society has taken more than what it should have from the individual, and where the individual is left without a sense of independent identity, a right to possess, a right to speak, a right to feel, a right to do this and that. There the balance has been turned wrongly against human nature. So this was one largest factor which became responsible for the undoing of the USSR. And that is again what is happening elsewhere, but quietly. So it was not a victory of capitalism at all. That is very naive of some powers to exult over this. Capitalism has won. It is not. Socialism has failed because of certain factors which you must bring to your attention and analyze them correctly. So similarly, the question of Europe developing into one larger Europe has to be examined very carefully. Here the individuals are states, not individuals versus society, not proletariat against the party. But here there is a Danish identity, there is a Norwegian identity, there is a British identity, which is tempted to merge together. But what are the forces? The question is, why should one leave its own independent identity and get merged? There have to be two types of forces. One, a threat from outside, where you get together and forget about your individualism. Or gains by some people who have joined hands and your fear of their growing larger. These are the two possibilities. And a third, in a larger global international relationship, you become jealous of a big power which became a superpower because of amalgamation and getting together of smaller units into one large unit, United States. So we know that Europe potentially, if it gets together, can become a bigger power than United States. Europe has immense potential. Nowhere in the world you have such large concentration of industry as in Europe, but if it is merged together and molded together into one large state, it will play havoc with the American interests in the world ultimately. So another nucleus is being evolved as a second pole to United States. This is the process as I see it. Now this process may create other imbalances, where Danes are left with a heart burning that perhaps Germans and the British are having a much larger say in that united Europe than we have, if you join the community I mean, where the French will have their old jealousy with the English, renewed once again, where the Germans would begin to see England as far too diplomatic and dishonestly diplomatic to remain a member of the society as a whole. So such factors will start the undoing. But there are other dangers involved. The dangers which I see will appear from their international relationship. America has some markets, and America is at a disadvantage than Europe. If the American markets are politically controlled by America, then they would remain in their hands. Otherwise, economically, if Europe merges together, it will have a larger market available to itself than America. And labor here would be comparatively cheaper because of the merger of the East with the West. So there are so many factors which will make you far more competitive than the Americans in the future, within the next decade.